You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
These are the headlines today, the 21st of November. An illegal immigrant caught growing over £1 million worth of cannabis. Spain brings in a Conservative government. War Crimes Tribunal against the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia opened. And one of Gaddafi's sons is captured. UK News. An illegal immigrant who came to Britain, hidden in the back of a lorry, has been caught in a semi-detached house in Northampton, growing well over £250,000 worth of cannabis plants. The house in Mayfield Road, Abingdon, was raided by police after a tip-off from a concerned neighbour who was watching the activities of the man, named as Tai Dung, aged 39. There were hundreds of cannabis plants with the equipment to make thousands more, which were removed from the house. 3 rooms on the top floor were full of cannabis-producing plants, one source had revealed. The court was told by drug squad officers that the crop captured was worth £87,000 and over 1 year could have produced over £260,000 worth. The court found the illegal immigrant guilty and sentenced him to 2 years in prison, once again at the expense of the British taxpayer, before deportation. The last immigrant who was put in prison before deportation was advised by left-wingers in Britain to get legal aid and fight his case. He ended up with tens of thousands of pounds in a funded legal battle in a blundering mistake by the Home Office around 3 weeks ago. Another illegal immigrant has been found growing cannabis in Northampton town centre. The woman, named as Hong Tran, aged 52, had over 500 cannabis plants growing in a cannabis farm in Deansgate, near the highly respected Guildhall. The woman could not speak English and was given an interpreter at, you guessed it, the expense of the British taxpayer. Her trial continues as she is in prison at our expense. It has been reported that the rise in immigrant mothers is a plan by immigrants to stay in Britain. Although every nationalist in Britain has known this from day one, it is only being reported by the media at this present time. Reports today are saying that immigrants are using a network of children to stop them being deported. Immigrants are using human rights laws to give them a right to a family life in Great Britain to abuse the system. The same rag of a newspaper has never given any credit for what the British National Party has ever done for local communities and its country, but today it reveals the immigrant child scam, one nationalist has said. It was a deliberate Marxist attack on the British people by turning the other cheek on the immigrant rocketing birth rate in Britain. This daily rag cannot be named for legal reasons. Spain has finally gone to the election polls this weekend and gave the Socialist Party that ruled its country one big boot out of government. The right-wing party, led by Mariano Rajoy, totally crushed the Socialists in a well-deserved victory. Spanish people were overjoyed when the Socialists were finally kicked out of power because they had put Spain in its worst financial crisis in many years. Senor Rajoy gave a speech to fellow right-wingers after the win, describing it that it will be a massive uphill struggle which will be needed to keep Spain from the bailout due to the Socialists pushing the country into a massive public deficit. The public showed huge public anger against the Socialists for making Spain's unemployment the highest in Europe and damaging the respect that Spain always has had. One reporter has said the people of Spain are venting their anger on socialism. For socialism doesn't care about the great status of a nation and its pride. Socialism has no pride in any country that it infests. It is a disease that floods countries with immigrants and puts the people of that country out of work and into poverty. Socialism is just an intellectual folly, yet nationalism is organic, he went on to say. World News. War crimes against the communist regime in Cambodia have finally got underway. The 3 men, part of the evil communist regime that killed millions of innocent Cambodians under the Khmer Rouge, have come to the War Tribunal's court over the genocide of its own people. One insider has said, once again we see communism at its true form, killing its own people, or if you don't agree with communism. The 3 who are on charge for genocide are actually pleading not guilty to the genocide and other atrocities to their own people. One spokesperson said the death toll caused by the communists reaches around 2 million, and that is communism in Cambodia alone. The three communists, Nguyen She, ex-head of state Keo Samphan and former Foreign Minister Leng Sari, are said to have killed and committed these crimes between 1975 and 1979. The courtroom in Phnom Penh was heaving with people who wanted justice done against their people. One court spokesman called Lars Olsen said, "I cannot believe we've actually got these people to trial." A farmer whose family of 11 members were murdered by the communists sat in the courtroom explaining to reporters what they had done to his family. The farmer, named as Sao Kuan, aged 75, said he wanted justice against the communists on trial. The trial against these people will have 4,000 Cambodians who were victims as civil parties and in the courtroom. It is said that these people who were victims of the attack by the communists will be the key to the convictions in the trial. One reporter said, "Communism is simple. It says it is for the good of the people to the face of the world, then murders its own people who want democracy and free speech in their own country." Demonstrators in Egypt are continuing their protest against the military's continuing rule and clash with Egyptian police. Sunday saw the worst of the protests when the police failed to control the crowds in Tahrir Square. The former heir to Colonel Gaddafi, his son Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, has been captured by the forces that overthrew his father. He was taken in the southern desert near the Niger border. He is now captive of the opposing forces. It is believed that he will go on trial for his father's actions as leader of Libya for 40 years. The trial may be held in Libya, but due to him being wanted by Interpol, the trial could proceed to the international courts. Thought for the day. It may seem that nationalist news is heavily biased against immigrants and the immigrant situation, but you have to realise that England is amongst the 6 most highly populated countries in the world. We share this dubious and dangerous status with 5 other countries from the Third World and the Far East. Most of this new colonisation occurs in the southeast of this country. This is why I cannot understand the general lack of sympathy for nationalists in this neck of the woods. People you speak to are fully aware of the awful problems that this deluge of strangers brings to the infrastructure of this part of the world, and yet when it comes down to it there is a lack of national pride and sense of survival. I spoke to a local estate agent who sold us our house 2 years ago, and he said, and I quote, "Well, we will all be Muslims soon, won't we?" I was appalled at this total lack of understanding. What is it with us? Have we been totally whipped by television? Do we see our lives through soaps and reality shows? Do we think that the next mosque they build will miraculously turn into a Tesco? Don't we realise that the earliest immigrants are old now and draining the NHS, as are the 25% of births to immigrant mothers? Do we realise in the South that we are being outbred, outsourced and outdone? People say we are racist and that you fear what you do not know. Well, it is not racist to fear losing your home, your culture or your country. Now we have Cameron bringing in cash for more affordable homes and enabling people to buy their council houses at half price. And we all know who occupies most of this housing market. We are the only country in the world making it preferable to live here for strangers and not our own people. You have to ask yourself, why? And finally, Pakistan has banned the words Jesus Christ from being text to all mobile phones in its country. In a crackdown on words it once expelled from the texting facility for Pakistanis, it is amongst other words like condom, breast, period, flatulence and monkey crotch. The crackdowns on words that the Muslim country finds offensive have been compiled by the Pakistani Telecommunications Authority. A World at 8 spokesman has been reported to have said, "It would be difficult for a Pakistani man to text his wife during his working day and ask his wife to pick up some chicken breast for tea." You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar and I wish you all a very good night.
The World at 8, the #1 in nationalist news.